In the 13th century, a storm began to brew on the vast steppes of Central Asia. It was the Mongol invasions, a series of conquests that would change the course of history forever. To understand the magnitude of the Mongol invasions, we must first look at the Mongols themselves. The Mongols were a nomadic people, inhabitants of the harsh and unforgiving steppes. Their way of life was built around survival in a land where resources were scarce, winters were brutal, and the horizon stretched endlessly in every direction. From an early age, Mongol children learned to ride horses, hunt, and fight. The horse was central to Mongol life. It provided not only transportation but also sustenance in the form of milk and meat. The bond between Mongol and horse was almost mystical, and it would become one of their greatest strengths in warfare. But life on the steppes was not just about survival, it was about loyalty and kinship. Mongol society was organized into clans and tribes, each led by a Khan or chieftain. These tribes were often in conflict with one another, vying for resources and power. But out of this fragmented world, a leader would emerge who would unite the Mongol tribes under one banner: Temujin, the man who would become known as Genghis Khan. Temujin was born around 1162 into the Borjigin clan, a noble but struggling family. His early life was marked by hardship. His father was poisoned by a rival tribe when Temujin was just a child, leaving his family vulnerable and without protection. Temujin, his mother, and his siblings were cast out by their own tribe, forced to fend for themselves in the harsh steppe environment. But Temujin was no ordinary child. He grew up determined to reclaim his father's legacy and unite the Mongol tribes through a combination of sheer willpower, strategic marriages, alliances, and ruthless tactics. Temujin began to rise in power. He defeated rival tribes one by one, either absorbing them into his growing army or annihilating them completely. By 1206, he had succeeded in uniting the Mongol tribes under his leadership. At a great assembly known as the Kurultai, he was proclaimed Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. This marked the beginning of the Mongol Empire, an empire that would soon expand beyond the steppes, engulfing entire nations and civilizations. Genghis Khan wasted no time in putting his ambitions into action. His first major target was the Jin dynasty of northern China, a powerful and wealthy state that had long posed a threat to the Mongols. The Mongol campaigns against the Jin were brutal and relentless. The Mongols employed a combination of direct assaults, psychological warfare, and siege tactics that had rarely been seen before. They were masters of mobility, able to strike swiftly and retreat just as quickly, leaving their enemies bewildered and terrified. Cities that resisted were often subjected to mass slaughter, their populations wiped out as a warning to others. But Genghis Khan's ambitions didn't stop with China. To the west lay the Khwarezmian Empire, a vast and prosperous realm stretching from present-day Iran to Central Asia. In 1219, Genghis Khan sent a caravan of traders to the Khwarezmian ruler, hoping to establish diplomatic and trade relations. But the Khwarezmian Shah, suspicious and arrogant, ordered the caravan's execution and sent the heads of the Mongol envoys back to Genghis Khan. This was a fatal mistake. Enraged by this act of treachery, Genghis Khan unleashed his full fury on the Khwarezmian Empire. The Mongol army swept through the region, destroying cities, massacring populations, and leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. The once great Khwarezmian Empire was utterly annihilated. With the destruction of Khwarezm, the Mongol Empire now stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea. But Genghis Khan was not content. He continued to expand his empire, sending his generals to conquer new lands and subdue new peoples. The Mongols moved with terrifying speed and efficiency, their conquests marked by a level of brutality that shocked the world. But it wasn't just their military prowess that made the Mongols so formidable. It was their ability to adapt and innovate. One of the most striking aspects of the Mongol conquests was their use of psychological warfare. The Mongols understood the power of fear and used it to their advantage. They would often send spies ahead of their armies to spread rumors of their unstoppable might, creating panic among their enemies. In some cases, entire cities surrendered without a fight, terrified by the mere thought of facing the Mongols in battle. But the Mongols were also masters of intelligence and strategy. They established extensive networks of spies and informants, gathering crucial information about their enemies' strengths and weaknesses. They used this intelligence to plan their campaigns with meticulous detail, often exploiting divisions and rivalries among their enemies to weaken them from within. The Mongols were also known for their skill in siege warfare. They adopted and improved upon siege technologies from the civilizations they encountered, using catapults, battering rams, and other siege engines to devastating effect. As Genghis Khan's empire grew, so did his reputation. By the time of his death in 1227, he had created an empire that stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea, covering vast territories and countless peoples. But the story of the Mongol invasions did not end with Genghis Khan. His descendants continued his legacy, pushing the boundaries of the empire even further. One of the most significant phases of the Mongol invasions came in the 1230s and 1240s, when the Mongols turned their attention to Europe. Led by Genghis Khan's grandsons, Bachu Khan and Subutai, the Mongols launched a series of campaigns that would bring them to the very heart of Europe. The first major target was the Russian principalities. In 1237, the Mongols invaded, quickly overwhelming the divided and unprepared Russian forces. The city of Ryazan was the first to fall, followed by Moscow, Vladimir, and Kiev. The Mongols showed no mercy, slaughtering entire populations and burning cities to the ground. With Russia subdued, the Mongols turned their attention to Central Europe. In 1241, they launched a two-pronged invasion, striking into Poland and Hungary simultaneously. The Mongol armies moved with lightning speed, using their superior mobility and coordination to outmaneuver the European forces. At the Battle of Legnica in Poland, the Mongols defeated a coalition of European knights, killing thousands and sending shockwaves across the continent. Just days later, in Hungary, the Mongols inflicted an even greater defeat at the Battle of Mohi, annihilating the Hungarian army and leaving the country defenseless. Europe was in a state of panic. The Mongols seemed unstoppable, and it appeared that they would soon sweep across the continent, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. But then, just as suddenly as they had appeared, the Mongols withdrew. The reason for this abrupt retreat was the death of the great Khan Ogadai, Genghis Khan's successor. According to Mongol custom, all leaders had to return to Mongolia to elect a new Khan, and so the European campaign was abandoned, leaving Europe scarred but intact. The Mongol invasions left a lasting impact on the world. In the immediate aftermath, entire regions were depopulated, cities lay in ruins, and the psychological trauma of the Mongol terror lingered for generations. But the Mongol Empire also brought about profound changes. Under Mongol rule, vast territories were united under a single administration, creating an unprecedented period of peace and stability known as the Pax Mongolica. This period allowed for the revival of trade along the Silk Road, facilitating the exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies between East and West. The Mongols themselves were not just conquerors, they were also patrons of culture, science, and religion. They adopted and promoted the practices and knowledge of the peoples they ruled, contributing to the spread of innovations such as paper, printing, gunpowder, and more. But despite these achievements, the Mongol Empire was not destined to last. The sheer size of the empire made it difficult to govern, and over time, internal divisions began to weaken Mongol unity. The various regions of the empire started to break away, forming independent khanates that often competed with each other. In China, the Mongol Yuan dynasty faced growing resistance from the native population, leading to the rise of the Ming dynasty in 1368, which expelled the Mongols from China. In Russia, the Mongols were gradually pushed back by the rising power of the Russian principalities, culminating in the victory of Grand Duke Ivan III over the Golden Horde in the 15th century. The once mighty Mongol Empire slowly fractured and faded, leaving behind a legacy of both destruction and cultural exchange. The Mongol invasions were one of the most significant events in world history. They reshaped entire continents, brought down great empires, and forged new connections between distant civilizations. The story of the Mongols is a testament to the power of unity, strategy, and adaptability. It is also a reminder of the destructive potential of war and the far-reaching consequences of conflict. As we look back on the Mongol invasions, we see not just a tale of conquest and devastation, but also a story of transformation, innovation, and the enduring impact of history.